Thank you for sharing. Take another deep breath and then another one. 3 deep breaths. And when you breathe, breathe in from the top of your head all the way down to the soles of your feet. And let the breath enter from the top and exit from the soles of your feet. And I'm affirming this. This is Charles Fillmore's invocation that I like very much. So I'm going to say it and take it in as your own prayer, if you would, if you're willing. I'm now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. I acknowledge thy presence and thy power, O Blessed Spirit. And thy divine wisdom now erase all my mortal limitation, and from thy pure substance of love, bring into manifestation my world according to thy perfect law. So we thank you, God, in advance for the blessings of this time, for the gifts here, and for the blessings that attend everyone as they leave to go back into the world. We pray this knowing that it's done, and so it is. Amen.
Amen.
Okie dokie. Well, 3 topics to think about today, which are
Solitude.
Solitude. And memories. What a combination, huh? Solitude, productivity, and memories. So let's think about solitude first. And this is something that she said, that our author said. Now is the time to stop excusing ourselves. Have you ever done that? Excuse yourself? I'm gonna have ice cream tonight, maybe not tomorrow night, but tonight for sure. You know what I mean? Oh, well, I won't after now. I'll do it just once more and then I won't anymore. Excusing oneself. I used to excuse myself regularly. I wanted to get up at 5 in the morning to finish my book. And doggone it, I didn't. And I said, well, I didn't get up at 5 today, but I will tomorrow.
Okay.
So stop excusing ourselves when we're headed toward something that's important to us. To drain the dross of life and to celebrate its victories over self. The kind of thinking that can only be done in solitude. So, hey Diane, I just saw that beautiful face of yours. Yeah, glad you're here. Oh, Nancy's here with us too. So the kind of thinking that only can be done in solitude. What do you think about that comment? Now is the time to stop excusing ourselves, to drain the dross of life, and to celebrate its victories over self. The kind of thinking that can only be done in solitude.
This is Kathy. I'm an introvert.
I can't hear you, Kath.
Oh.
I think we better turn it up out here, right?
Okay, I'll be right there.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment on that?
I think solitude is great because it allows you to, this is kind of what they're saying there, to think about what you need or want to think about. Because when you're around other people, which I am a lot,
Yeah.
then you're absorbing their thoughts all day and all evening and all whenever. But solitude allows you to do your own brain.
It's like, the picture I got when you were saying that, Chris. Solitude, I don't know if you all heard Chris. She was saying that solitude allows you, as this says, drain your brain and get away from all of the energies. And she works still, so she's always with people. get away from that kind of energy and just feel.
That's what I was gonna say. I want somebody, can somebody who's online talk so I can make sure we can hear you in the classroom? Just
This is
unmute.
Eileen, can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you.
Betty.
Thanks.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So what you said just reminded me of a lake. So we've all seen lakes where there are motorboats on it and pontoons, and so the water is all stirred up, right? That's out in the world. All the energy's out there. Solitude is when the lake is empty and you can see to the bottom. You see what's on the bottom. Like a crystal clear body of water. That's the way the mind becomes in solitude. So my questions for sharing are, what have been your victories over self? For example, I quit smoking 34 years ago, 35 years ago. That was a great victory for me.
I quit 7 or 8 times.
I did that too. So a victory over self is, you know that what you're about to do isn't really life enhancing or health enhancing or enhancing in any way. What you're about to do or say, and you stop yourself. That's victory over self. Anyone had any experience there? Karen?
I can say 2 things. One is that I get higher messages. I don't know if that makes sense, but I get higher messages. I use solitude in the morning with my daily word. Daily word and then the solitude. And the other thing is, I haven't had any coffee except for once or twice a month a Starbucks Frappuccino. But I don't have coffee anymore for breakfast, not even half a cup.
Well, that's a big deal.
It is, it was a grief issue,
Yes.
but the payoff has been less stomach problems.
Great.
But anyway, yeah, and the idea to do that came to me one morning loudly, you don't need coffee.
Interesting.
So I think that you can chalk up to solitude.
Yes, yes. Yes, and listening too, right? Listening to the guidance. Anybody else on this one?
I have-
Yes,
I think sometimes too in solitude, it helps unite the heart and the mind together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're thinking and you feel presence.
yes.
I feel the chest quiet.
Yes.
And what happens in your experience when you unite heart and mind?
Well, I think a lot of solutions come, different things come in higher consciousness, solving problems and ideas.
So Bejo was saying that in solitude, the heart and mind can unite, and in that comes solutions. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Solutions. Yeah. You know, unity has a very simple formula that you were talking about, and that is thinking plus feeling equals a demonstration. If you can unite your thinking with your emotions, you demonstrate something. There's a coherence there rather than incoherence. If the mind and heart aren't together, I'm thinking one thing but feeling another, it's incoherent, and the result is incoherent.
Chaos.
Yeah. Who else? Kathy, were you gonna say something? I heard someone voice.
Carol had her hand up.
Yeah, I was,
My answer was already taken care of by what Chris said about solitude, and I like it.
Carol.
I agree with what's been said. A victory over myself is I've lost 50 pounds over the last few years, and I've been keeping it off. So, and one thing that I love popcorn, and I got in the habit of having it every night. So now I look forward to Sunday, because Sunday night I have popcorn, but only Sunday night. And also I do pray and meditate in the morning and read the daily word, and it just that, and then I have some time alone. My husband's usually out walking and I just am meditating, and it sets the tone for the day. I love that time to myself.
Great, thank you, thank you. And so we're speaking, some of you have spoken already to that second question up there. What do you appreciate or not about solitude? Any other comments about victory over self or solitude? There'll be more on solitude.
Diane has her hand up, I think.
Diane, oh, there you are, Diane. Yes.
Well, my question is more what's not to appreciate about solitude, because I have two lives: solitude down here much of the time, although my husband's been here this week, and then I'm going back to Portland tomorrow. And since it's going to be 108 degrees and my daughter doesn't have good air conditioning, she, her husband, her baby, and her dog are all moving in with us for 4 days.
Oh,
I crave solitude, and I don't know what anybody else does. I'm serious about this question because for me, it's more what to do when I can't get the solitude I need. I mean, I try to do it in my head, and that would be one victory over self. When I get my negative thinking, I put it in a little box, take it to the room, the door is marked negative thinking, open the door, put it in there, be done with it. But I'm seriously trying to crave out more solitude.
great, thank you, thank you. I like that thought about taking the negative energy, putting it in a box and getting it out of your energy system. Okay, I'm going to go on. This is something from the book. Howard, would you read that for us? Can you see from where you are?
The problem with solitude is that we often confuse it with aloneness or isolation. Solitude is chosen. What is your experience of both? Any confusion about the difference?
Yeah, so the author's making a distinction. Yes, Howard?
You know, that's exactly what I was thinking before you had me read it. I was thinking solitude is when you're just alone by yourself. I've been in nursing homes where people have been forgotten, shoved in a corner, and they sit there in the dark, just bored out of their skull, just so happy when somebody comes in and breaks their solitude. But to that point, they didn't choose that. That was kind of forced upon them. So
Right.
I like that definition. The difference between aloneness is isolation versus chosen.
Right, which is something that this last year has been about, right? We can, in the midst of isolation, because we're not supposed to be going anywhere, right?
I suppose.
And in many ways, we couldn't. We could get in our cars and drive out on the highway, I guess, and just get out of the house. But there was some isolation going on, a lot of depression as a result, too. And that's not solitude. Solitude is, as she said, chosen. Isolation doesn't feel chosen to me. It feels like circumstances. Or it's unconscious. So anyone want to add to that, what Howard said? No? Okay then. Okay, will someone read this one for us? Solitude is in the center. Go for it, Susie.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Solitude is in the center of the soul, where the unspoken in us runs deep. It is here in the well of the self that our unfinished self, our real self, lies waiting for attention. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm gonna have coffee brought in. Diane.
I hate that I always have a thought. I think that a lot of people have trouble being alone. And I have at moments as well. But like I said earlier, for me, it's more about craving more solitude. But people that I've experienced that talk about solitude and equate it with loneliness, for instance, I think that this quote is very good. You know, the self is down there if we find a means to access it. And I do agree, though, that there's situations where, like in nursing homes, where it's forced on people, and that's the difficult place. But a lot of times for other people where it's not forced, it's just a place that that they don't want to go sometimes, to that self. Because sometimes people don't like themselves. Right. And basically, you know, they're just looking to distract, for instance, might be one reason. I think there's probably many reasons.
Yeah, it's interesting that the way she terms this is, I think, very interesting and provocative. It is here in the well of self that our unfinished self, our real self, lies waiting for attention. What might that mean? What does it mean to you? Our unfinished self.
This is Kathy.
Yeah.
I think we all have unfinished selves, and I'm an extreme introvert. On the Myers-Briggs, I'm as far to the introvert side as a person can possibly get. After my first husband passed, or the first one who I acknowledge, who I liked, I moved in with my sister, who's as extroverted as I am introverted. And I love being by myself. I meditate, I pray, I read. I just think it's the best place to be because I'm an introvert. But my sister Robin could not be by herself. If I worked late, she would have a fit. And I worked late all the time, but she couldn't stand not having somebody in the house with her. And so I would do crystals with her and meditate and do cards, tarot. And every time I did, it kept on saying she needs to love herself more. But she couldn't because she wasn't able because of being this extreme extrovert. And I'm not sure which one came first, the extrovert or the lack of self-love. But she was not able to be by herself because she didn't love herself. My observation.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So that fear of what one would find if they got alone with themselves. What might I find about myself? The fear of, I'm going to find that I used to have this thought, I'm not lovable. Anybody tell me I'm not alone there? I mean, Carol.
I can definitely relate to that. It's not till really I found unity and learned a lot about what's real. I didn't want to spend time with my own thoughts and in the silence because I was afraid of what might be in there, that there was something wrong with me, you know, and that the message that, you know, God loves us and that we're okay no matter what is such a strong one. Here I'm getting even emotional here. But it's fear. Fear is why I didn't want to look inside, and I didn't want to know. I thought it was bad. What I would find would be bad. So I was always busy and always trying to get affirmation from outside myself. But that's all changed because I now know that I am okay and I can make mistakes. I can learn. I can grow, and people love me for who I am, not for what I do. And you know, I don't have to try to manipulate anything to get attention or love.
Great, thank you. Great.
This is Eileen. I was going to say that most of my life, I didn't know how to be alone because when you grow up number 6 of 7 children in the house, plus your parents, it's like, okay, where do you go to be alone? And what do you do when you're alone? I think about the only thing I did as a youngster when I was alone is read, because it's like you needed to find that time where you had time to yourself where you could. But I didn't have any other activities that were by myself that I knew what to do with myself. And so as I am older now, I think I'm so used to creating distractions for myself that I don't know how to go deep inside to find what it is that I really want. Not that I don't try, I mean, I do, but I'm not as good at it as I think I should be. And so that's something I definitely need to work on.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that.
It's Betty here.
Yeah.
Regarding unfinished self, I think the very fact that we are all taking this class indicates that we realize there's always something more to learn and something to experience with other people. So I think we are very fortunate in these communities that we have so many opportunities to not only be alone if we want to, but to be active in activities and to have opportunities for service. And I think that really fills out our life. I was an only child until I was 10 years old. My sister came along, and but I always enjoyed reading and playing with my chemistry set down in the basement and so forth. So I've always enjoyed that, and I still do, like my own time, my private time. But if I want to be with people, here I think I told you I joined the line dance class again, and I used to mentor in the 2nd grade over in Thompson Ranch School. So we have the opportunities here to do that, and I'm thankful for that. I think that gives us a rounded life to be alone and also to be active.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Howard?
I have a little problem with the switching soul for self. I see them as different. To me, self is that egotistical, real world part of me. They say there's 3 parts to a human. There's the part the definition of me that I think I am, the definition I project to you. I don't want to show you my bad parts, that I'm an alcoholic or a gambler or a womanizer or whatever my bad. I try to keep that from you. And then there's the real me that's different than what I think or what you may think. But to me, that's egotistical self. To me, the soul is that ephemeral, spiritual part of me that we're always trying to figure out, looking for. That's the part that's eternal, that goes on, that leaves self behind every time. So I see self and soul as different, and mixing them causes me a little confusion.
Well, I think what my opinion, my take on it is that what she's wanting to communicate here, never mind what she wants to communicate. Here's what I understand: that we have a soul, and within that soul is all of us, right? Myself is in there, my humanness, and so is my divinity in there. And so I think what she's saying is solitude allows us to go to the center of ourselves, where the real is, and also our humanness. She calls it the unfinished self. I'll call it maybe what needs healing, what needs to be getting all kinds of visualizations here. It needs to be broken open so the light in us can be expressed. So any fear, for me, any fear that I have not acknowledged will show up in my life as driven behavior. If I'm afraid of rejection, it's going to show up. If I haven't acknowledged that I'm afraid of rejection, it will show up in ways that aren't helpful to me. So I think what she's saying here is that solitude, this choice to just sit with ourselves and see what's in there, will reveal what needs to get healed, as well as our real self, the goodness in us. So when the fears and all of their disguises are, when the veil is pulled back on them and we see them, they're not the same anymore. You know, they've been redeemed, so to speak. Should I bring in the coffee?
I find a great difference between being alone and being in solitude. Because I've been, I want to say, given a very busy brain. And it really is, you know, I can't be alone without thinking up things to do. I'll snap flies with a rubber band if there's nothing else to do, and I've been known to do that. Solitude is what we were talking about earlier, that inner quiet without taking any action outside to distract. That inner quiet where truths are revealed.
Where truths are revealed, yeah.
Yeah, like
I think that's her point here. What do you think about that, Howard?
No, I understand what you're saying. Again, to me, the soul is still different from self. Self is that egotistical part of me that I need to study and understand and try to improve upon. And, you know.
Do you think the self is separated from the soul?
Yeah.
Oh. Not within it.
I think that's why we can be bad, and yet our soul is still holy enough to move on.
Okay.
It gives me the escape to say, okay, yeah, myself did that. Don't blame me, soul. It wasn't my fault. So.
Sounds like being Catholic is going to confession.
Yeah, maybe that's where it comes from.
What did you say, Cindy? It said it sounds like being Catholic is going to confession, and then it's okay. Huh? Yeah, well, I mean, at least it is for now. If I do it again, I gotta go back. It's only good for a moment. Okay, anything else on this? Thank you all for sharing. I'm gonna move on. Oh, look at this French. Lynn, could you read this one for us?
Are we living now the happiest way we can in the circumstances we are all in?
What would you respond to that? Are you living now the happiest way you can in the circumstances you are in?
I would certainly hope I'm trying to do that.
Great, great. How do you do it?
Just by trying to enjoy every day, to be grateful for what I have and what I'm able to do.
Good.
To be open to new experiences.
Great, great. Anybody else? Jane?
I do it by trying to give up judgment.
Mm.
Because if I'm not making judgments about something, it's easier to just go with the flow.
It is.
Instead of
It is. True, thank you. Who else online? Anybody online want to comment on this? Are you living the happiest way you can in the circumstances you're in? Carol?
Yeah, yes, I think it's related to the earlier question. When I'm living in relation to my own, I keep my heart open and I'm just following my own, well, lost the word. I'm being true to myself and I'm demonstrating love and acceptance of others and acceptance of myself, then I'm really happy. That makes me, and that I'm more and more that way now.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I had an experience during this pandemic, and it was, it started out before the pandemic hit. One of my friends, her husband was in the process of dying, and she brought him home to the house to do this, which she was able to do and get all the equipment, find the people that needed to be there to do this. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, she had 4 hours free. And she said, do you think that, and she was part of one of the first people I met when I moved here, and she was also someone that I learned to play cards with. And so she said, do you think that 4 of us or 6 of us that we have been doing this would be willing to continue to do that? Because if I don't, I'm going to lose my mom. If I don't have something, we go. And I said, well, fine with me. So we did. So those days, sometimes we went to the mall and we shopped. Believe it or not, we bought booze. We did one day. We had things we did. And then we also played cards. And so we did that for over a year. And then he passed away. Yes, it was Thanksgiving kind of passed away, yeah. And she said if we hadn't have bonded together and made that choice, we played with masks on and we brought food and we had a really good time. But she said, you know, in that instance, she said, I don't know, I would have lost my mind if I didn't have that outlet. And I said, well, we probably maybe all would have, or we wouldn't have signed up to do this crazy thing. But we did, and I ended up getting COVID, but I kind of was not, I was feeling really, really bad, like a couple of weeks before it was actually diagnosed. So I did not go to the group. I said, I'm just not feeling good and just do it. So that was a blessing because nobody got it but me. Nobody got it but me. So I think in that, I think that is, you know, that's what we did. We did the best that we could to be happy. And for, you know, like part of it was, well, as old as we are, how much time do we really have left? Are we going to sit in our house and be afraid to go outside? Are we going to sit and be afraid to do nothing and listen to TV? So we made a pact that we didn't do that. So that was our answer, and I'm happy that we did it because we all came out much more.
Yeah. Thank you. Great example.
Yeah.
Great example. Anybody else?
I think that the key trick word in this is circumstances.
Yeah.
Because that's where you trip up. I mean, if you have anybody can be happy on the beach in Bali, you know. But your circumstances are what you have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So you really do have to work to be happy in the circumstances you're in, and everybody's circumstances are different,
right?
And so it's a personal feeling, it's a personal journey you're doing there. And I was going to say on the last quote, which actually this one applies to, all these quotes I can so relate to, that she's said it the way I'm thinking it, that it's hard for me to expand on it. It's like, yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also Chris was part of my don't stay at home group either. So
Yeah.
we did a lot of stuff together.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we were circumstances. Yeah, we were our circumstances.
So I hope you online can hear what everyone in here is saying. Joy was talking about what she and a few friends did throughout this past year. One of the friends had a husband who was in the process of dying. And I think it was she that initiated this idea of let's do something. So they had a lot of adventures together. So it speaks to
how are we staying happy in difficult circumstances? Where we didn't have the freedom that we usually have. How?
But I thought it was interesting that you got, I think, 4 comments that were all tentative. One of the common words used was trying. We're trying. We've got to work hard at this. So my conclusion is we're not all living the happiest way we can, but we're sure trying hard to live in a happy fashion based upon the circumstances or whatever. So to me, that was significant. We're all trying to be happy. It's not
Well, is
easy.
that true? Is that true for you, that you're trying to be happy rather than you are happy?
I am happy a lot of the times, but I have to work hard at it because there's the id part of me that keeps getting in front.
Yeah. Remember, I don't know, I think some of you were in Sunday service when I talked about my friend Helen. And what does it take to be happy in a difficult circumstance or in any circumstance? Am I going to be happy today? And remember, I remember what Abraham Lincoln's quote was: most people are as happy as they choose to be. Abraham Lincoln. And in The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, a book that we did as a book study here, he said, we really only have one choice in life. It's not about our career. It's not about who we love. It's not even about whether or not we're going to serve God. It's this. Do you want to be happy or not? Take your pick. In this moment, do I want to be happy? If I do, then I can't go on thinking the way I am right now, right? If I catch myself. So my friend Helen was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And back in Carlsbad, where we knew each other back in San Diego, it got to the point where she was in a wheelchair. And the tremors were so bad. And she made a decision that she had to make probably momently. No, this is not the end of the story. So she got busy finding resources. And it turned out that she got out of the wheelchair. She and I didn't know her yet when she was in a wheelchair, but I knew her when we went for a lot of hikes. And then we moved down here. She moved first. And the Parkinson's over the years over a year shifted. But she kept looking for resources. She didn't sit in it. Seeking happiness in a way, but not wallowing in a difficulty. And every time I see Helen, she's now in assisted living. Every time I see her, she's doing something. Hey, you want to come over for the concert we're having today? Hey, I'm going to learn to play poker tonight. And every time I see her, she's smiling, but she's in excruciating pain. So the question is, are we living now the happiest way we can in the circumstances we're in? Take your pick. Happy, not happy. Anybody online want to come in? Okie dokie. Off we go. To the next chapter in our book is about productivity. Close your eyes for a moment. Everybody close their eyes. Online here. I'm going to say the word productivity 3 times and just see what comes to you. See what comes. Productivity. 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 When you're ready, open your eyes. Comments?
This is Kathy.
Accomplishment. Karen says accomplishment. Someone online said,
Kathy, guilt if I'm not.
say it again.
Guilt if I'm not productive.
Guilt if she's not productive. What else? Well,
Try not to waste time.
don't waste time.
Yeah.
Linda says. Carol?
What came to mind was earning a paycheck. So that's what's hard when you're retired.
Thank you.
Judy?
I often tell myself, if I were being paid, I would sit down here and do this. But I'm not being paid to do it, so I do not have to do it. Because I was quite good at being productive, but what's the point? I planted a plant this morning because it was 80 instead of 105 that I bought about 3 weeks ago. And my sister would have had it in there when she got out of the car.
Thanks, Jane. Who else?
This is Judy.
Yes, I have been so productive in the last few days. I don't know what's gotten into me. I'm making some cards and with little figures on them. And I've just, I can't make enough variations to keep up with what I want to do. So I've been very productive.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, then let's look at the quote. To insist on living until we die may be one of life's greatest virtues. How's that working in your life?
I think, this is Eileen. I think the question is our definition of what living is. What does it mean that we're living? And I think that's when we're accomplishing the things that we know that we want to do, and that we're present in our life every day with those things that bring us joy. And for me, I think the key is what brings me joy is my definition of what living really is.
What brings me joy, yeah. To insist on, so let's do the parentheses then. To insist on doing what brings me joy until I die. Yeah, great. Well, Howard?
It brings to mind, we had an acquaintance, a friend that wanted to die. She was 100 years old plus, and she was frustrated that she couldn't die. She had to keep hanging around, didn't know why. And it was sad for the people around her to see that she wasn't enjoying life. She was just upset because she couldn't die. And I think that's a terrible place to be. You gotta, there's something that's pleasurable as you age. Yeah, you can't, maybe we can't climb camelback or whatever, but there's lots of things you can do and get pleasure out of and enjoyment. So don't die prematurely. Let that happen. It's going to.
That was interesting. Don't die prematurely. Yeah. Yeah.
I just have to say, though, it's Diane. And I just have to say that having compassion for people that cannot find joy in life, pain, depression. I've certainly worked with a lot of depression. It's not something people choose. Not, that earlier the discussion on happiness being a choice. I agree with that. Happiness is an inside job. However, some people have really difficult journeys getting there. And I think for all of us, having compassion, I'm thinking about Howard's person that he mentioned that is just waiting to die. I think for folks like that, just sitting with them and loving on them and maybe prompting them a little bit because they're stuck. They're stuck in that place. And I do think that I'll just say me, I am always working on my definition of what happiness is. Where Kathy said she feels guilt when she's not productive. That's a journey I've been on. So for me, productivity is more about balancing my life and having some time to relax and seeing that as productive because it's different than I used to be. So anyhow, I just have to throw that in because compassion is really necessary. There are a lot of miserable people in the world, and I don't necessarily like to be around them either, but I don't think they're choosing to be that way, you know.
So thank you.
On a conscious level. On an unconscious level, yes, they are stuck, you know.
For sure, for sure. And it's a gift to offer silently, offer a compassionate heart to someone who is stuck like that, but not collude with it. Yeah.
I've been blessed with an unexplainable inner happiness, just getting up in the morning and for no reason whatever, I'm happy. I think a lot of children are like that, just wake up and the world's there for me. And then I went through a time this last winter because I've been having some health issues, and I began to neglect my body, not eating right, didn't want to eat, wasn't pleasant to eat, didn't get any pleasure out of it, wasn't taking vitamins, and I didn't realize that I was doing that. I was just in the day, and that was what I was going to do for today. Started having thoughts of death. I started having death thoughts, not horrible thoughts, really kind of pleasant thoughts in a way of being done with this. And then somebody called me on it and said, you've got to start eating your fruits and vegetables. You need to get with it. And back came the feeling again of happiness. And I learned that sometimes for me, it's not making up my mind to feel or think a certain way. It's got to get my ducks in order in order to do that. If my body is not able to process happiness, then I won't be able to do it. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was an experience for me.
What a great example of taking care of yourself, of this temple. Yeah. And what happens when you don't?
Yeah. I don't remember generating those thoughts intentionally.
Well,
it just came.
Yeah. There's the, well, I won't go there. I was going to talk about the collective unconscious, but I'm not going to. I could talk about that one. Okay, so to insist on living until we die, productivity. Still on the idea of productivity. Someone read that for us, please.
Work is a necessary dimension of the spiritual life. We are not here simply to live off the fruits of the earth.
Uh-huh. Okay, so pay attention to what's going on inside of you.
Work is a blessing.
Great. How many would agree with that? Work is a blessing. Oh, okay, all right. Well, that surprises me. That's great. Work is a necessary dimension of the spiritual life. So we might ask then, I want to ask, what does work mean to you?
Caring for others, creativity, busyness.
Creativity.
Creativity, you know, what you love to do.
Okay, good.
I love to work. So.
You work, great. Who else?
Gives you purpose.
Say that again, Benjamin.
It gives you purpose.
It gives you purpose, great.
It gives you a sense of accomplishment to help you go, what's the word I want? Motivation.
Great,
And interest.
and interest. Great.
I have worked in a field for over 50 years. That it gives me satisfaction to give other people gratitude and to help them feel better.
Uh-huh.
That makes me feel better. I'm passionate about my work or I wouldn't be doing it this long. But making other people feel better makes me feel better.
Oh, isn't that great? Yes.
That's what I get out of it, really.
Well, and so you're saying work is a way for you to be happy. Work
Yes.
is a way for you to have good energy and make your contribution.
And do it in a balance, you know?
Yeah, and it's when you don't call it work, because I never thought of what I like to do as work.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, oh, I have to go to work. I mean, it's like, oh, I get to do this now. So I never really liked work because that seemed negative to me in my own mind.
And she used
I
the
know,
word
I think
passion.
there's a lot of that, where work is, it has, it's stereotyped in a certain way. Because a lot of people, I guess, have worked at what they don't like. But who has their phone handy and can Google a definition of work for us? Because I think that, I don't know what Webster will say, but if I remember correctly, Einstein defined it mathematically. MC squared, is that right?
Yeah.
Speed of light is MC squared, is that what you're asking?
Say that again?
Speed of light, MC squared, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
I
Has
found,
anyone found the definition?
I found a definition: exertion or effort directed to produce or accomplish something, labor or toil, productive or operative activity, employment. Those are some of the
Read the
definitions.
first one again. Carol, read the first one again.
Okay, make it larger. My eyes are. Exertion or effort directly to produce or accomplish something.
So work is effort.
Right, effort. You know, that's what I was going to add. And I would like to say, I have to think of work differently now since I'm retired. I used to hate housework. But I read a book, Meditation from the Mat was the name of the book. It was like a yoga thing, a daily meditation. But they talked about, don't call it housework, call it home caring. And that changed the whole concept for me. And now I'm caring for my home. It's where I live, just like I'm trying to care for my body, because that's where my spirit lives. So when you redefine it as, and then you find ways to enjoy it. So I put effort into it, but I don't consider, because work to me did have well, you have to do it. It's not always pleasant. And so I try to define it as just caring for things that I care about. Well, now that I'm retired, I can choose what I do and what I care about, what's important to me. And that's where I work on that, like things for the church or some things in the community or for my family.
Great,
So,
thank you. Thank
uh-huh.
you. Yeah, Betty?
Betty here. Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to think of the words to describe what I'm feeling. I'm concerned that in our society, so much is based on how much you can do, how much you can get, how much you can achieve, and so forth. And I think it's not what you do, but how you're doing it is what's more important. When I worked with these second grade kids, they have a new approach now in the schoolroom. When a kid does well on the paper, you don't say, boy, are you smart? You say, you worked hard to get that. And that was a good thing. And I think that's good when you think of it as, I don't have the right words. In other words, you don't give the kid a star on the paper because he's the best in the class. You recognize how hard he had to work to do what he achieved. So, and I think work has gotten a bad rap for being something that's hard, just like the last person just said. When you can look at something and you're doing it not because it's your work, but because it's something you want to, you enjoy doing, and you're producing something that's helpful to yourself and to others. I don't know. I think we just have to be careful that we're not in here to be competitive. We're here to all serve ourselves and others.
Great. Or as Don Miguel Ruiz said, always do your best.
Yeah.
Always do your best. Because that's what your soul would like. So work. I think if we got to the core of what work is, it is the expenditure of energy. And that is who we are. You know, who we are at our core is creative beings. And
Sharon,
yeah,
it's Diane. I have to throw this in since last Sunday was Father's Day. My father, who was going to be a priest and left instead, had 6 kids instead. His favorite, we were his pulpit, needless to say. His favorite expression, and this is back to whoever was talking about housework. This reminded me, his favorite expression was work is a prayer. So one of my sisters, when we moved into one of our houses we renovated, she painted that on a big bucket. Work is a prayer. So it's actually very true. I hadn't thought about that until we're having this discussion. Work is another means of praying, really.
it can be. We can lift what we do in that way, to call it a prayer. Have any of you, are you, ladies and gentlemen, familiar with Brother Lawrence, the story of Brother Lawrence?
No.
I think the title of the book is Practicing the Presence of God, but I could be wrong. But there's a story of Brother Lawrence, maybe 15th, 16th century, something like that, working in a monastery, and he was in the kitchen. That was his assignment in the monastery, to wash the dishes. And it talks about how as he washed the dishes, he would give it to God. I'm doing this for you, God. He was practicing the presence of God. Every time he washed a dish, it was for God, to honor God.
Is that what you call seva?
Could be, yeah.
What is that?
Seva, selfless service for God. Okay, I'm going on, unless there are other comments right now. Okay. So this says work is creativity. It is the expression of ourself that no one else can duplicate. That's beautiful, isn't it? Work is creativity. So I'll give you a piece. It's hot in here, isn't it?
Very stuffy. Humidity, stuffy.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Kathy's on it. In Unity, we talk about the Trinity: mind, idea, and expression. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Father is the one mind. Son is the thought in the mind of God. And Holy Spirit is the activity of God. So the creative process is idea, to get an idea from one mind. I mean, if it's a good idea, it's probably from one mind. Get an idea, and then I do something about it. Mind, idea, expression. So the creative process is to get the idea and then do something about it, which is what she's equating, and I like, to work. Any comment? Are you all thinking?
Oh, yeah.
This is Eileen. Sometimes, you know, remember in Cheaper by the Dozen, how that guy was a efficiency engineering expert? And sometimes I find myself trying to find better ways to do things. And so I think of him always trying to find better ways to express or create what it is you're trying to do. It's very rewarding for me.
How do you explain that? Trying to find better ways to do something. How do you explain that we are exploring outer space? How do you explain to yourself that there are human beings going up on the rocket to the space center? How do you explain that we're doing, you and I aren't, but there is research to heal Alzheimer's? How do you explain that we are now developing electric cars? How do you explain that there's a vision of creating modes of transportation that are above Earth, not on roadways? How do you explain that to you?
The power of imagination.
Say that the power of imagination. Yeah. Howard?
You bring out an interesting thing. I was 16 probably and hired to work for a lumber company. More as a favor to me than they needed to work with. But the owner of the company came out and gave me a star drill about this long with a star in the end of a 16-ounce hammer. And he said, I want you to knock a hole through this 18-inch concrete wall for a soil pipe for putting in a bathroom in this building. So I spent 2 days with that 16-ounce hammer, getting that hole in. He came out, looked at it, and said, "Yeah, Howard, that's the wrong spot."
Oh, no.
That's where he told me to do it. He's just like, he draws a circle about a foot over, he goes in and gets a pneumatic drill, electric drill that drills, but also has a percussion capability. He said, use this. So in about 4 hours, I drilled the second hole. And my first thought was, you asshole, you did that all along. You made me work for 2 days to drill the damn hole in the wrong spot. And I finally came to the conclusion, he was paying me 75 cents an hour, no matter what I did. He taught me a lesson. When I got done, he said, Howard, I want you to think about this. Before you do something, you always want to think, there may be a better way, a faster way, an easier way, or a cheaper way to do something. Think about that first. That was just a lesson. Teach me, a 16-year-old, about productivity. And it stuck with me the rest of my life.
How fabulous.
Yes.
And served you well, obviously.
Yes, and I have to apologize to Leonard for thinking of him as a SOB.
A mentor. He was a wonderful mentor.
He did it, whether he knew it or not, he did a great thing. So.
Yeah.
Sharon, I'm sorry, but every time Howard's voice kind of goes down, we miss the point of what he was saying. So I didn't get all that.
He told a great story about when he was 16 years old. He went to work at a lumberyard, and the boss, the owner, whatever, came to him with a project one day as a 16-year-old to drill a hole in a concrete wall with 2 pieces of equipment. And it took Howard 2 days to drill the hole. The next day, the boss came to him and said, no, you put it in the wrong place. Now Howard is human. And he drew a circle somewhere else on the wall and brought out a pneumatic drill and got the hole drilled within 4 hours. And Howard had spent 2 days with the lesser pieces of equipment. Not the best, most efficient and effective. And so the lesson is what came back and said, Howard, if there's a better way to do something, better, more effective, more efficient way to do it, think about that first. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So that is a story about the mind, inviting the mind to think about what's next, what might be better. Why would we not be content with staying on the earth? Give me the bottom line, in your opinion. Betty Jo.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Why would we want to go to Mars rather than just be contented to stay on the earth? Why would we want to explore outer space?
I often wonder myself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I'm just inviting us to look at the nature of God in us. And I believe that God, as the energy of all that is always creating. Scientists tell us that new planets are being formed all the time. And so I've come to believe that we're always looking for a better solution, a solution, or something, what's beyond right here at this boundary, what's beyond it. And that's because that's what God does. We are made in the image and likeness. And if God is still creating, that must be what we're supposed to be doing too.
Well, I know there's a divine intelligence, and when we tune into that, we are receptive to new and expanding ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the whole point of meditation. The whole point of solitude. Okay, I'm going on. Finally, the third topic is memories. The goal of memories is to give them the kind of meaning that makes them precious rather than painful. How do we do that?
I think we have to savor the good memories and the joyful times to make sure it's in recorded in our memory.
Yeah, part of our energy system. Yeah. What Betty Jo said was it's important to record the good memories so they stay with us.
It's Betty here.
Uh-huh.
I think the whole point of the experiences we have in life is for us to look at them and say, what have I learned from this? And so I think it's the same with memories. When we are thinking of something that we thought was a bad thing that happened, look for what eventually came from that. What did we learn from it, and where are we now because of that experience? So they're precious as teaching tools.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Betty because at least in my life, I've had some what you might call negative experiences, which later when you look back on them, you'll say, you know, if that didn't happen to me, I never would have left the other situation, which maybe was not my best situation to be in. I would have stayed in it forever. And so this caused me to move forward, which later I found out was wonderful.
Great. Yeah. It's and it's coming from a spiritual perspective, right? It takes a spiritual perspective to reflect on a painful memory and transform it to something useful. Or important. Yeah, Maya?
I think this is where the creative arts really can come in handy in our life, because I know my father would paint about different experiences. He was a homosexual, and he didn't come out until he and my mom were married for 25 years, and I was 20 years old. And he did paintings of how that felt for him. And for myself, I wrote songs. Starting as a teenager, I would have a frustration with my parents, and I'd write a song about it. And that continued. I would take the jewel of what I learned from the experience and write something that I would then sing over and over. And of course, then I had this big ego, so I thought other people could get inspired by that too someday. And then I think other people journal, and I mean, there's just some collage or create a video of memories with pictures. I mean, there's just scrapbooking, knitting, making a quilt. I mean, there's just so many beautiful ways to express those memories and remember them in a way that kind of like the creative arts seem to go somewhere inside your body that we can't get to with our mind.
Right. Great. Great. True. So creative art as a way of transforming energy. Any other thoughts about it?
This is Kathy. Oh, I think that that's similar to choosing to be happy or not. It's interesting to me. I have a sister who's almost the same age as I am. And so we shared a lot of experiences. And I really don't have many bad memories of my childhood, but she has horrible memories of her childhood. And she chooses to be a victim. And so the things that might have been unpleasant that I don't even remember, she plays over and over and over in her head, and she talks about, and I don't remember that. So I think it's a matter of choice. A lot of it is a matter of choice.
Yeah, great. And memories can always be transformed, can't they? From pain to gain. How would we do that? You've all talked about it. There's a spiritual practice called, begins with F. There's a spiritual practice called what? And the word begins with an F.
Faith,
Called
forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yeah, forgive.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was just thinking, I need some help. I want to go through all my albums of my children when they were little. I have so many albums. I want to go through them, but I've been reluctant to, because I don't think that we had as good of experience when they were little as I would like for them. And I need to forgive myself, and I need to somehow look at those pictures and not be sad. I don't know if anybody has any guidance.
Good idea. Good idea. Howard?
There's the negatives. I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but there's a negative side to memories, giving memories meaning to make them precious rather than painful. As an example, the U.S. dropped the atomic bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, killed 80,000 with one bomb. The memory from the U.S. perspective is that shortened the war and in fact saved lives, probably did. The estimate was that over 1 million people would die if we invaded Kyushu, as they were prepared to do. But by killing 100,000 civilians, we didn't have to kill 1 million. Those are Japanese that we would have killed. So it's our way of saying, okay, how do I make this sound like a good thing so I don't have that guilty conscience on my soul? And I'm sure there's some Japanese who don't see it quite the way the Americans see it. But I think we humans have the ability to twist things a little bit to justify some of the bad things we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what the human mind does. And, you know, I go back to that song that we sing every Sunday, let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And so my job, if I want to be happy and want to be a contribution to other people's lives, not be a pain in other people's lives, my job is to transform any bad memories I have, to forgive myself and everybody else. Otherwise, I'm not going to be happy. And the more people that don't do that, the more wars we're going to have. The more people that choose to hang on to bad memories, in other words, hang on to grudges, the more conflict we'll experience in the world. That's my last statement about that. Betty?
Yes, I don't know if PBS is going to show it again, but if you have Passport, you can access it. Last night, there was a 2-hour program on mental illness and post-traumatic stress and all those situations. And they're using cognitive behavioral therapy, which is very effective. I've worked with NAMI for mental illness for many years. But at any rate, if you can watch that program, because it really gives you an idea of especially with the servicemen, of what the one man, the doctor that was interviewing this person said, so what is it that's bothering you? And he says, what do you see in your dreams? He says, I see people dying. I don't like to see people die. And that must be a terrible memory to have imprinted on their brains. And anyway, see if you can watch PBS, Story of Mental Illness.
Thank you. Thanks. Who will read this one? And then we're going to close because I can see your eyes at half mouth.
I'll read it. I'll read it. Says, memory is a call to resolve what won't go away, an invitation to delight in what is the gold standard of our lives, the desire for completion, an opportunity for healing. And I just want to add, for the lady that talked about being sad, I don't know who it was, about looking at the child pictures. What really comes up for me, having worked with a lot of people that had children young and wish they'd done it differently and everything, is again, you know, we're talking about being happy, but sometimes we have to allow ourselves to be sad to get to that point of happiness. And out of that sadness can come what we've learned. And out of that learning can come communication with our children and with people. I frequently sit down with my daughter and just kind of do a check-in, as she's a new mother now. And, you know, there's things that I wish I'd done differently with her, and talking about it. And a lot of times it's something I'm overemphasizing in myself, and she's long forgotten it. So I think that, you know, again, we can avoid doing things like getting out our albums and getting out our memories, or putting them out there because of that fear of being sad. And out of sadness can come a lot of learning, and then can come happiness and peace. I kind of equate that word happiness with peace, being at peace with her. Yeah.
Well said. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. That was very helpful, Diane. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Enjoy those albums.
Anybody? Thank you. Anybody else? I like that. What is the gold standard of our lives? I wish in my daytime, I carry around a little slip of paper with 3 things on it that one of my spiritual teachers gave me that I've carried around for probably 25 or more years. I carry these 3 things to remind myself. One of them, upset or unhappiness comes from 3 things: undelivered communication, unmet expectations, and
I'm sorry. I keep unmuting. And, what's the word? Intentions thwarted. Intentions thwarted. So, that kind of thing creates memories that I would want to redeem. In other words, change my behavior going forward. Okay, we're closing right now. Any final comments? Thank you all for being here. I think the weather has something to do with it, don't you?
Definitely, yes.
For sure. The clouds are low. Like I said, I should have had a pot of coffee. Okay, we're gonna pray out. Y'all ready? Okay, have a good rest of the week. So God, we just take a deep breath right now, giving thanks for this time together and your guidance and presence, your inspiration. We give thanks for this time and the blessings of being here together and the blessings that result from having invested ourselves here today in spiritual exploration. And so we go into our day with a sense of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy. Thank you, God. Amen. Thank you all. Amen.
Thank you.
Isabella, thank you for being so good here.
Yeah.